Hi, my name is Lynette McMillan, and I would like to welcome you to the very first episode of Ramshackle Road, which is going to hopefully be a podcast explaining how the windy, weird roads that we might travel turn into a story that God is using to tell His story in your life. And I'm hoping to share some experiences from my own life and from other guests. I have Kevin with me today about how did we end up here? Is this what I thought my life would look like? And as we talk about that, maybe it'll stir up some questions in your heart, and maybe you'd like to be a part of this conversation. So if you're one of my friends watching, please know that I'm going to call you and ask you to be on this show. My name is Lynette again, and I am 57. I have been down a long, windy road, but I'm hoping there's still lots of years left. And this is the man that I share my life with, Kevin McMillan. We have been married 35 years, and the question that I might ask somebody like myself if I was watching would be, what qualifies us to do a podcast? Who in the heck are we? Kevin knows this because we've been married 35 years. I've been a performer all my life. Even as a little kid, I loved singing for my family and putting on little shows with my neighborhood friends. I played piano at home and mostly sung in my own living room to the big curtains of our window. But as I got older and life got interrupted with my parents' divorce, we moved to Florida. And when I met Kevin in high school, he introduced me to singing in choir and public in front of people. And that was life-changing. So not only did I get a boyfriend that turned into a husband, I got a new confidence in singing on the stage. And in high school, I did a career assessment, as most seniors do, and it said that I should do something in communication, that I had good English and speaking skills, that I should do something in music, potentially. That was a big part of my life at that point, and that I should do something creative. I did not know how to make money doing any of those things at 18, and neither did Kevin. He was a big singer, and we did a lot of high school stuff, and we had friends who had the drive to do music as a career, but we didn't know how to do that ourselves. So it wasn't until years later, after doing Bible studies and leading youth groups, that I found myself as a Weight Watcher coach, speaking and facilitating Weight Watcher meetings, and that confirmed what I had known at 18, that I love talking to people. And the thing, I can teach and I can talk all day, but I love talking to people because that's where the aha moments happen. So I hope that we have some of those as we talk. And I hope that as we study personality and we study jobs, that we study scripture, that we find out where God uses all of these life experiences to tell His part of the story of our lives. So Kevin, do you want to tell us a little bit about you? Tell me something about yourself that qualifies you to be on a podcast.
Well, I'm your husband, so that worked out pretty well. It's like we talked about early on. It was first off, it's an along for the ride sort of thing.
Yep.
Kind of pictured myself as the straight man to your boisterousness. So I think
that's putting it nicely.
There's a potential complementary relationship. So I think that's the big thing, and also. Because of where we're at in life, the fact that we have a lot of experience and we learned many, many things a difficult way.
Oh, yeah, that is true.
That we both have a lot to share. You had a conversation with a friend earlier today on the phone that you had a real strong connection to your grandparents. Yeah. As being a child of divorce. They were really instrumental and monumental, really, in your life. I didn't really have that experience, so it was a different road for me. But we both had things that we could share with our kids as a result of that, and I think that's kind of, those type of things are things that I feel like would be beneficial for other people to hear. There are a lot of things that don't get talked about for whatever reason, whether it's shame or it's just not always positive to talk about. But there's things that need fixing or healing, and healing more than fixing.
Yeah.
So
something Kevin and I have talked about a lot is that we never envisioned at this age that we would still have so many things to work out. I imagined when I was 20 that by 60, I would know everything. I wouldn't have these spiritual existential questions. I would not have hurts from and hangups from the past. I thought it would all be fixed by now. And so it's very peculiar to know the stuff that we know, to have answered some of life's, I mean, we have stayed married more successfully at times than others, but we've fought through a lot. And for anybody young married out there, I will just say, don't assume that 10 is better than 15, and 15 years means you're stronger at 20, and 25 means you're good for life. I think our 25th year of marriage was our toughest because I was scared to death that if we hadn't figured out that issue or this, maybe we wouldn't ever. And I love that God has shown me sticking it through with you, walking through those difficult times means this 35th year has been twice as good as year 15. But there's still things I'm learning about you every day. I love that. So I want to give that encouragement to somebody else that might be going through a rough time, even though they thought they'd be better off at this age.
And I think I would just to tag along with what you're saying is that because of the fact that we were so far down a road, and things were so tough, is really a testament to the fact that God is the glue. I'd love to take, as a human, I'd love to take credit for it and say we muscled it through or we worked it out. And there are times, if the truth is told,
oh gosh, yes,
that we didn't work it out, we didn't muscle it through. The Lord carried us through.
We just stayed in the room.
Absolutely,
we just stayed together in the room when we didn't want to. Sometimes,
yeah. And so. That brings about gratitude when we put that in perspective. And so, yeah, for sure.
Well, one of the things that I wanted to tell about is why this is called Ramshackle Road. Kevin and I have been singers since high school, and we've sung a lot together. I did mostly solo work, and he would sing in the choirs and things at church. But a few years ago, I started recording a CD just as a little memento for my family, and it turned into some singing engagements, and we were following some friends of ours who were on the road making money doing music, which was our dream. And we started singing with our kids, and it was just a couple of the very best years of our time together, not just being married, but ministry too. And the group name that we had was called Ramshackle Saints. That's still our group name, so nobody else can take it. But I loved that title, and I would love for you to tell people where that came from. Why were we Ramshackle Saints?
Okay. Well, I don't remember exactly how it occurred to me, but I liked the word because I felt like it was earthy and real. Ramshackle?
Yeah.
And I looked it up because I wanted to know what was the root of it, what did it mean? Because words are important. And so ramshackle, the biggest thing that stuck out to me when I looked it up in the dictionary was dilapidated, in need of great repair.
In a state of decay,
too. In a state of decay,
yes.
In great need of repair. And then the other piece of the name is saints. So, and then saints obviously are in the Bible are believers in Jesus.
Redeemed,
perfected even. And so, not that we feel like we're perfect, but that's
no.
where we're hopefully headed someday, that God is going to handle that part for us. So it's kind of like this dual meaning, but it's the fact that we're in the process of being perfected,
even though we're decaying,
that we know we're not there. And that, like the scripture says, that our imperfection will put on perfection, and that one day we see through the glass darkly right now, but one day we'll see Him like He is.
Yeah.
And so I think that's where the name came from.
And whether you're a person of faith or not, even if you're not a believer, it is easy to see in your life that whether you meant to make that decision or not, sometimes we, especially younger, we make decisions. We end up in a situation, we quit a job before we have another job, or we spend money impulsively and then we're stuck. There's twists and turns that we make that some of them, even if they were absolutely stupid and dumb, we ended up meeting someone else along that road. I ended up at Weight Watchers because I was 50 pounds overweight after my daughter was born. And I wouldn't trade her for the world, but I didn't feel good about myself. I just felt like I was not being a good example to my children. I felt, especially as a Christian, that I was not in control of my impulses, and really felt convicted about that. And none of my friends felt the same level of conviction. So I wasn't getting help from my spiritual community, and I went to Weight Watchers with my stepmom and her two sisters. And even though I sat there embarrassed and not in control of myself, after I had lost some weight and learned some skills and was invited to be a coach there, that's when I met this community of amazing people. And all the years of working with youth groups and all the years of teaching Bible study, all of a sudden I was in a group of non-believers sometimes, but we all had a connection, and I got to facilitate aha moments. And that's when I felt like, wow, this big thing that I felt was a problem and a mistake in my life brought me a job that I've been at for 15 years that has just been a joy, because the coaching I've learned doing that with other people has spilled out into Bible study. And it's like God used all of these weird little twists and turns. Youth ministry, because I had a heart for broken children, because my heart had been so broken as a teenager. Bible facilitation after that, because I felt like God was the answer to all that brokenheartedness. And then the job aspect of coaching. Now I've started a company as a professional organizer because I'm helping people out of that little mess too. It's just, that's what we want to investigate. What are the twists and turns that you've had in your life that ended you up where you are now? And if you're not where you want to be, what's the next step of coaching you need? Or what's the next step of education you need? What's the next step of belief that God has more for you that you need to believe so that you can do the next thing on His agenda? I feel like all of this has brought us to this strange place. And I'll even tell you the story of how we ended up sitting here. Is I started making a list. I love podcasts. I've been listening to them for several years, and I ended up getting certified as an organizer because of the podcast I was listening to. And so as I was listening, if I ever do a podcast, I would talk about this. And I started writing a list of all these things and content. And I had no idea how to get anything like this off the ground. And I was singing at a funeral at our church. And Charlie Hall, that is helping us with all of this, came up afterwards and asked for our son Ryan's phone number. Ryan had been a student of his at the school when he was teaching tech, and he said, "I'm interested to see if Ryan wants to help with a podcast." And I said, "What do you mean?" And he said, "Well, I'm doing a podcast. I'd like somebody to do a podcast for me or with me." Oh my goodness, God, that is so cool that I've been praying about this, and you're dropping this practically in our lap. So I hope it's going to be a blessing to somebody to walk through these scenarios with us. Is there anything, Kevin, that you would tell somebody listening about a few of the twists and turns in your life that means I'm glad I'm sitting here today? Is there any encouragement you would give somebody about letting those twists and turns happen?
I think it's in what you in the words. I mean, you said the answers in in the question is letting things happen. It's so hard. We are told God has a plan for your life.
Oh yeah, we talked about this today.
So I've heard this all my saved life, right? That God has a plan for your life, and the way my brain interpreted that and continues to is there's a script.
Yeah. Oh, it's got to be A to B to Z.
That it's a step by step, and that plan never ever materialized in my life the way that I imagined based on hearing that as a young believer. So I don't knock anybody. And it's not it's not intended to be negative, but I think the messaging was a little bit off. I think that God has a plan to save my life.
Oh, I like that.
He has a plan to redeem me from where I was and make me something other than what I was. And so I'm so glad that that process is happening and that's something he's doing. But as a believer looking backward over life, struggling really to try and figure out what that plan is, and God, what is your specific will for my life? When am I supposed to turn left? When am I supposed to turn right? When am I supposed to look up or look down? Whose advice am I supposed to take? And if I miss it, did I miss your will?
Wow.
And the answer to all those things are stop it. Stop asking and just let it happen. And trust,
that's not easy for you to do.
and that is hard for me to do because driving down the road, Lynette, 4 miles from now, I've got to turn one direction or the other. You're my navigator. Which way which lane do I need to be in?
Yes. That's hilarious.
So that's my brain is I'm wired a different way. It's like I want to know, and God says, I know.
Yeah.
Just let it happen.
I'm almost in tears because that is hilarious. I'm like, if you miss the road, you can always take a U-turn. It's okay. U-turns are all right. But that drives you insane.
Yeah, but I'm learning.
Yeah.
And I think that the advice for me would be to say, God does have a plan.
Yeah.
He has a plan to redeem us. That's his plan for everybody. The specifics, you work out your salvation with fear and trembling. And those things are personal between each individual believer and the Lord.
Wow.
And so what he wants from me and what he wants from you, what he wants from somebody else, that's why they call it a personal relationship. That phrase gets used a lot in our brand of Christianity as well. And I'm not knocking that either, because it really is personal, specific, because he knows us, he made us. Each of us is unique.
Yeah.
And so as a result of that, it's got to be personal and it's got to be specific, because he's got the blueprint. Nobody else is like you. Nobody else is like me. So that's my advice, is let it happen.
Well, I am really excited to keep talking about that, because the main confirmation for me after you and I had discussed if I was to do a podcast, this is what it would look like to me. Very soon after that, we went on a trip with our very best friends, and we were just gone a couple of hours from the house. And as we were driving home, I think we'd already, or maybe we were on our way there and we continued it on the way home because we got so fascinated. These are people we've known since high school. And my friend Jody mentioned a job that she had had while she lived in Wisconsin that I had never known she'd had. I'm so, tell me about that. Did you work a job? I know you. I didn't know you did that. And what other jobs have you worked? As that conversation started, Jody went through all the jobs she had had, from babysitting and Rack's roast beef on to today. And John listed his jobs and you listed yours. And I was absolutely sure that I had not worked 14 jobs like the rest of you. And I've got the list here. I don't remember what the number was, but I was only one less than one of the other people in the car. But between the four of us, we had worked 71 jobs. And we're all believers. And we talked about the best boss we had, the worst boss we had, the most fun job, the job that fit our personality the best, the best paying job versus the best life quality job. It was the most fascinating conversation that we'd had with our best friends in a long time, because we got to know the ins and outs of where their learning come from, where their faith got increased, what hurt their heart so unexpectedly at a job. And so what I hope this is life experience, the work jobs and things that we've done, the spiritual gifts that we have. How is God using all of that to meld into the person you are now? And what does he want you to do with that information, that love in your heart, that knowledge that you have about yourself? Who does he want you to share with your neighbor? Does he want you to share with your boss? Does he want to keep changing your mind? Because my mind is not always where I want it to be at this stage of my spiritual and physical life. I doubt too much. I want to control too much. So the last thing that I would share about our credibility as podcasters, or people you'd want to share a half hour or an hour of your life with in a periodic episode. We took a life class. Our friend Jerry introduced us to Identity and Destiny. I don't know if it's still a personality life event that you can walk through, but it's like a personality study. And it was quite a few weeks, and we did it together at a really hard time in our life. We walked through this. At the end, we were asked to list our top 5 core values that we had really pushed through a lot of information to get to. And we are so different. Kevin is the steady and I'm the crazy. I'm the talker and the gabber, and Kevin wraps it up very succinctly. I'm the risk taker and Kevin's the careful one. So we are just A and Z. And I think that's why it works so well, but it can also be really hard sometimes. But we've made such room for each other since this personality study, because it incorporated the sanguine and caloric and melancholy, that particular personality study, and the DISC test. Well, we can go through some of that. Enneagram. There was just a lot of different personality studies that we did within it. But Kevin's top 5 core values, if this means anything to anybody, is integrity. And I'll vouch, he's one of the most loyal, truth-telling people I know. Transparency. He doesn't like fake. He wants to be real, and just what you see is what you get. Family was another one of your top 5 core values. Love and authenticity. And those were the 5 in order that you scored. My top 5 core values were authenticity. So your number 5, my number 1. Encouragement. I will listen to you about your problem, but I want to help you out. I can't stand being stuck. I hate being stuck. And on this life road, we feel stuck a lot. So I want to help you get out of that. So encouragement was my number 2. And it's funny because in talking about that, passion rises up. That's my 3rd one. I just really don't want this life to kill our spirit. I want to be full of excitement, and creativity and discovery were mine. So some of the same words, but that authenticity and transparency we both share. But this was the icing on the cake, is that we should be doing something together as husband and wife, as friends, as people who've gone through life and parenting together. We have 4 kids, and we'll talk about them with their permission. But at the very bottom, the very last thing that we did before we created a mission statement through this discovery process was our top 4 strengths, spiritual gifts, and our 4 were the exact same in a little bit different order. But both of us were considered, our main gift was exhortation or encouragement, being exhorters, people that can tell you life can be better. You have to buy in on that, but you just have to believe and trust, and God will teach you how to be better in this life that we're in. So that was really cool. That was both our number 1 strength, was encouragers. So I'm excited to encourage people with you. Prophet, telling God's story, predicting how he can encourage you with his word and his story unfolding in your life, was another one that we shared. Both of us had teacher, and both of us had mercy as our strengths, our main spiritual gifts. So if you need encouragement, if you need mercy, if you need somebody helping you through scripture, we are not experts, but we've been in God's word a really long time, and it is healing for the soul. And if you need somebody to just tell you, he does have you in the palm of his hand while you're in this plan. And this we'll talk about will of God. If you're in his will, that means you just love him and you're wanting to work that plan out for your salvation and for his glory. So I'm excited to keep talking about this. 23
minutes in, do you feel qualified to be a podcaster?
Oh, that's a good question. If there's an audience, I could talk for 23 hours. You know that. It's very interesting. I just was listening to Mel Robbins yesterday. I listen to all kinds of podcasts, and God love her. She is so encouraging to me because she does brain science. She'll take something that, is like grandma's logic thinking, good sense, and then she'll find out why mechanically and chemistry-wise it works in our brain when we do these good things for our health. She has a little bit of a potty mouth, and that really makes me sad because I don't like listening to that. But I have gotten over it sometimes because I like the content so much. But I was just listening to her talk with the person that she first saw on stage, and felt like when she listened to this woman, she thought, I could do that. I want to be like her. This woman is salving my soul right now with the words from the stage that she's saying. I remember being in high school with the one teacher that you just connected with and thinking, I want to do that. How come I'm sitting in this room and this teacher is speaking to me and then this other teacher is boring? I've just had some incredible teachers that, teachers at Bible study, or I've been to women's retreats, and how do they know what to say? But I felt like I could do that. I don't feel like I've had near the training that I want, but I know how to look at somebody and tell them, what you'll be okay if you can tell me what you want. What do you want? If you know what you want, I can help you. I can help you believe that you can get it. And I don't know that everybody can do that. So I do feel like I would be qualified because I have a passion for that. I have a passion to help you figure out, what did you want? And then what's getting in the way of you getting it? That's what, if you're on the windy road and some of the turns have been very unpleasant, God can still use that to help teach somebody else what not to do. Or you know what not to do again. Let's not make the same mistake again. Does that make sense?
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's learn from my mistake, not your own.
Yeah.
I think that's very, very worthwhile. And I think most people would want that advice.
Yeah.
Like, hey, the bridge is out. You probably don't want to go that way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
And I think the other thing too is none of us are exactly alike. There's a lot of discovery, and we're in such a reactionary time all the time right now. There is 24/7 chaos in traffic, on the radio, in politics, in hurricanes and forest fires, and just the news, the world, the lightning speed that we are expected to keep up with, let alone being nice to your husband or taking 20 minutes a day with your kids. All of that is really tiring. So if you're already stuck and then those things are happening in your environment and you're not believing you can get unstuck because you don't have the energy to go do the dishes, that is a really exhausting place to be. And we're not there right now just because of the age of our kids. I'm able to finally spend some time on me, but I wish sometimes I could go back 20 years and tell 37-year-old me, this is a step you feel so stuck right now. But there is somebody you could call. There is something else you could watch on the television. There's an action. You could go take a walk around the block, and that would be a better relaxation method than vegging out with Seinfeld for half an hour. Like, there's things I could have done to unstick myself if I'd have had, and I did. I mean, that's, I think where I'm at today is because I went looking a lot of times for how to make myself better. Mm-hmm. But that being stuck is really hard. And you have to take an action when you're stuck. And that's very intimidating when you don't know which action to take. So that's another part of this, that if you're not on a curve in the road that you want to stay on, how do you turn another way? What other direction do you take? What advice do you go? Kevin, tell somebody where you go when you need to change your brain a little bit. Where do you go to get rewired if you feel stuck?
Well, I mean, there's a number of things. I mean, there's the first place for me. I want to hear something that'll tell me that it's going to be okay. So I got to pull away from whatever the negativity is, whatever the hardship is, and just hear some positive truth. And then most of the time that comes first thing in the morning out of a devotional. I mean, I got a Eugene Peterson devotional as a gift. It's one verse a day,
I like that.
So I read that scripture, and meditate on that. And the Word has power. Yeah. I mean, it's God's. That's one of his primary way of communicating with us. And so, that's number one. What I'm learning to do is surround myself with other people. And obviously you're somebody I come to for that. because you're right there. You're here.
I love doing that.
We're us. But I've been not good about this historically, but what I'm trying
When you talking to other people?
Yeah. I'm kind of insular. I'm an introvert by nature. But I'm reaching out, and I'm just touch base with somebody. I've got a lot, not quite a handful of people that I reach out to, and just to say, hey, I need a positive word here, whatever it might be. So that's another way. And then a lot of times it's what do I avoid? And the things that, if it's going to add to my plate of concern, I probably am going to avoid that. Like, I'm not going to run to the news if I'm in a bad spot.
Knowing what not to do.
Right. I'm going to pick I want to listen to a song. We have songs on demand. Anytime we want, we can hear anything we want.
It's overwhelming, isn't it?
That's a great topic for a podcast.
Oh, I'm going to write it down.
But for me, it would be, what's going to be encouraging? What do I know that song contains that'll help me just lift my spirit, get me out of this place? And so those are things.
Since this is supposed to be encouraging life and connections and lessons learned along the way, I would just love to ask you this. I'm definitely an extrovert. We've talked about, if we retire, we can't go anywhere too remote because I would drive you insane. The women need 70,000 words a day, or what's my quotient? It's like 200,000 or something. I don't know. But as an introvert, I know sometimes that you'll say to me, I need to call so-and-so. I need to reach out. I haven't. I meant to. The words in your mind that would stop you from reaching out. What's one or two of those sentences that gets in the way of you reaching out to people?
Oh, I'll do it tomorrow.
Okay.
That's one.
Okay.
It's a little late.
Late in the day.
I'm tired.
Okay.
Those type of things. If I'm, I think that it requires sometimes, it requires a shift in behavior.
Okay.
To really reach out.
So
you got to push through I wouldn't call them excuses. It's not that I'm trying to avoid it. It's that maybe I am too tired, that I feel very tired. But sometimes you have to do something that's counterintuitive. Our Pastor Jeff used to say, "How's that working out for you?" Like if you're trying it this way and it's well, how's that working out for you? So let me do it the opposite way of how I'm doing it.
And I know you've made a concentrated effort the last few weeks to start reaching out to people. What is the reward for going past that comfort zone and going ahead and making the call, even if you are wondering how it'll be received or you're tired? What's the benefit of reaching out to somebody? An extrovert needs to hear that.
Well, there's strength in numbers, right? And if you're alone and you're not reaching out, then you're alone, and you're still alone. So the benefit of it is strength in numbers. One is now two.
Yeah.
And 2 or 3 gathered in his name.
Can you think
he's in our midst.
Can you think of something, and you don't have to say who can you think of something that somebody said in one of these recent reach outs that you've just been like, I'm so glad I talked to that person? Can you think of something they've said to you that, not anything extraordinary, but just maybe they don't even know how much it encouraged you? I remember one person you called said, I'm right there too. But how did you know that I would be where you, and that really...
I called to check on a friend who's on a job hunt. And I called to check on him, and he ended up checking on me.
Oh, I love that.
During that conversation. And it turned into it was like God, the phrase flip the script. It's a big thing now. Well, that really happened. And so it was like, it went both ways. And so the level of the relationship deepened, and now it's not awkward because of the sharing. And
I love that.
It was important.
That's really
Yeah,
cool.
it was good.
Well, I want to just thank you for being on this Ramshackle road with me. And one of the questions I would look forward to talking with you about maybe next time is, because we've known each other so long, we have an extraordinary experience of being high school sweethearts. You told me you were going to marry me maybe a year into dating me. And I just thought, maybe not even that, maybe 6 months we were dating. You're like, I'm going to marry you someday. I was like, yeah, right. Yeah, what do you know?
Prophet.
That's on your spiritual gifts list right there. I asked somebody today, I was with a clutter coach client, and I said, how does your life today look compared to what you thought it was going to look like 15, 16, right out of high school, maybe college age? What is true about your life that you expected and what's different? And that might be a great question to explore next time, because that's the whole point of this. My life didn't turn out like, I never dreamed we would have 4 kids. Who does that? I never dreamed that we would make it this long. And I never thought that we wouldn't make it, but I had no way to know what this looked like 35 years in. And I also didn't anticipate so many of the struggles. I thought much younger we would have worked out so many other things. And yet God still gets all the glory for working through that stuff with us, because we've asked him to help us and he's shown up every time.
Yeah.
But that would be a great next question, is what did we think it would look like compared to the real deal that it's turned out to be? So if you're still listening and you've hung out with us all this time, thank you so much. I'm encouraged to know that talking to you on a camera or with a recording is it's a little weirder, but I still feel very comfortable. And so I just can imagine this is going to be a great way to explore some of our friendships. I have a list of about 10 people that I'm for sure going to call this week. So be expecting that phone call if you hear this. And if you're interested in talking about your Ramshackle Road, please make sure to check out the connections that we'll have with the show posted for you, because I really like to continue to just talk about where we are on the road and how did we get here and what God is going to do with it. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you, Kevin.
It was fun. It was a good time.